Small business owners, entrepreneurs, medium startups, and VCs, this one's for you. Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line, Balancing Evolution with Execution, hosted by Elevate Talent Solutions founder and CEO, Ron Miller. Through Ron's own hard-won wisdom, along with an array of luminaries across the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you'll glean priceless wisdom that will help you see past the day-to-day grind and into the future where you can check off today's to-do list and achieve innovation and elevation to ensure your business is future-proofed. Fulfilling and profitable, it's time for Beyond the Bottom Line, balancing evolution with execution. Take it away, Ron.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. And today we are talking recruiting, real recruiting, the kind you don't learn from a job post, a buzzword, or really what a quick shadow of someone who's already winging it will show you, right? Joining me is someone who has spent 3 decades proving what recruiting actually is, a professional discipline. Look, I'm so excited. I can't even pronounce the word professional discipline. It's not a title, right? So I want to welcome in John Ruffini. John is the Vice President of Professional Development at HealthTrust Workforce Solutions, and they are an industry leader in the healthcare staffing space. Now, every recruiter hired there goes through a 2-week boot camp that he has built, and that training alone has cut their ramp time by up to 30%, which is music to my ears. Everybody that knows me and my advanced recruiting training that I've done and what I put out there, this is how you build and onboard recruiters. John's also started a perm desk, built branches from scratch, rebuilt struggling ones, chaired multiple ASA councils, keynoted Staffing World, which I am jealous of, and won ASA's Volunteer of the Year in 2024. And in his spare time, he's also an author. He's wrote a book called Moneymakers, which is a best-selling training manual used by staffing firms across the country. And because he apparently didn't have enough going on his plate, he's also published A Quest for Alex, which hit #1 on Amazon in 2 separate categories. I was fortunate enough to have him as a guest and an honored speaker at our NJSA convention a couple of weeks ago. But before we bring him in, let me set the tone for today's conversations with a line from a great movie that a lot of you don't know called The Edge. And there's a great line in there of most people don't die in the woods because they're lost. They die of shame. Why? Because they realize the fundamentals they should have known to survive, but never learned could have saved them. And for me, that's what recruiting is today. And this is exactly why John is here. So John, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you.
I love that quote from The Edge. I'm going to have to go look that movie up.
It's a little obscure, older movie, but you'll find the more we converse, the more movie quotes I drop just pulls
Love
out
that.
of my brain.
And the whole thing about the fundamentals, that's music to my ears. I know we both feel that way. So that's very apropos for our topic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you and I have had some great conversations. I love the presentation you did at NJSA, the simplicity of it, because I think as a community, and especially online, we love to complicate what recruiting really is. And it's not rocket science, but it's not as simple as post a job, get some people, put them to work, move on either. And that's not that simple. There's a lot of nuance to it. And you and I had some great pre-conversations about this, especially starting off with recruiting is a professional discipline. It's not a job title.
Right.
And I loved when you had said that, John. That really knocked it out of the park.
And you have to decide if you're in this business just to collect a paycheck, is it a job or is it something you're passionate about and that you want to make a career out of and really a lifestyle? Those, like you and I have been in this business for a long time. That's really in any line of business. That's the only way you're going to build long-term success is you really have to commit to it. And I've always said recruiting is a great way to earn a really good living. It's a lousy way to earn a paycheck when you're just going through the motions. There are much less stressful careers out there to earn base pay.
I think I'm going to quote you on that one. I'm going to use that one because that is absolutely true. I always say, and I said this to somebody yesterday and was talking to them offline, recruiting for those that really understand it and love it, it becomes more of who you are, not what you do.
Well said.
And if you don't
I
have
agree.
a passion for people, like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, and it's something that, again, I fell in love with this industry, and the person who hired me into this industry a long time ago said something that it's a quote that many have heard: "You find a job you love, and you never have to go to work." And even on my worst days, well into my recruiting career, when I thought I'd lost it and hey, I can't do this anymore, maybe I've lost the edge, am I ever going to place another person again? I woke up the next morning and went right back to it because it's like, I love what I do. And you have to have that. If you don't have that, it can be a very frustrating job
Yeah.
if you don't have that level of passion and if you can't roll with the highs and the lows.
Yeah. You have to have, I don't want to say a tough skin, but you have to have adaptability. And for me, at least, I have always found I don't want to say the high, but there's no other way to describe it. I love the dopamine rush when you do connect someone with the right opportunity. Because so many recruiters out there, they don't know how to read the story on paper anymore, right? It's sell me, do this, do that, me. And they don't know how to read that story and make the connection and actually talk to people and get them in the right opportunity. And how do you sell them to the customer? They get into, and you and I talked about this a little bit, and I know you hit on this at the NJSA, but that reactive state versus that proactive state. And it took me a while early in my career to understand that. Now we're going to go back to where we used to put ads in the newspapers and flyers out on telephone poles a day of, oh my God, I need people. But doing it that way for long enough and flooding them in and then not ever doing anything with most of them really made me think, what the hell am I doing?
Well, you and I learned to hunt. And that's where the term headhunter came from. I mean, people used to say to me, "Oh, you're a headhunter?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I never minded that term because that's what we do. We hunt it. There's something to be said for learning how to hunt. You're right. We're too reactive and we're too lazy. Technology's made recruiters today very lazy. Oh, I've got Indeed. Oh, I've got this job board, that job board. I just put an ad out there. Guess what? Your client has an HR department that's also putting ads out there. How is that different? And that's really, we've lost that creativity. And those that have learned to hunt are now bringing candidates that, guess what, your client can't find on their own. And that's the part of the business I always loved. I loved the chase. And if someone told me, oh, I need someone with this skill from this industry, then it was like, okay, I'm going to find every company in the market that does that. And now I've got to find some way to get inside there and get someone on the phone and network. Maybe I'll go to a live networking event and try and associate it with them and figure it out. But how many people do I need to touch? And then when you land that person and they're primed for a move and this makes sense for them, that's the win. That's that rush that you were just talking to. That chase was always the most exciting for me because it was like, all right, can I find this and meet them when I hate them? Versus, oh, I'm going to post an ad and just hope something comes to them. We've gotten way too reactive.
Yeah. And I want to get to what you were sectioning off into a little bit there with the AI in a minute. But when I think about the same thought process on that reactive recruiting today, and listen, I see it, I try to call it out, and I feel like I'm yelling into a canyon most of the time because it resonates and it filtrates up through bad advice all over LinkedIn all the time from reactive recruiters. Stop applying to all these jobs. We have so many candidates. We review every resume, but we don't get back to everybody. Poor me. You're creating your own reality because I don't know about what you hear, but I know what I see because I believe things when I see them and feel them and touch them and smell them. I will go through years of when there wasn't a week that went by that a recruiter wasn't reaching out to me to try and pluck me from somewhere, or at least once a month. John, I couldn't tell you the last time that has happened. It has got to be over a year.
You know what does happen now, Ron, is every once in a while. So I share that with you. Same thing, same mirror image to what you just described. And no, my phone has it wrong. I get emails on LinkedIn. That's the outreach. And And worse than that, I get emails, again, your classic recruiter faux pas that kills our industry. Hey, I saw your profile. You'd be perfect for this. And me being the trainer that I am, and you'll appreciate this, I always respond back to them that, why do you think I'd be perfect?
Yeah.
And I go back and forth the dialogue, and they don't know the answer. And I'm like, you don't know if I'm perfect if you don't know me. Try getting to know me before you pitch something. Even in those things, I'm that guy that like will coach the person who's like giving me a failed sales pitch to try and help them be better on the next one. But you're right. It's, again, it goes back to there's not enough recruiters hunting. We think it is. Those that are hunting are totally separating themselves from the competition because no one's doing it.
100,000%. And I think I touched on this with you when we spoke, and I know I've talked to a couple of people about it. A part of my business is direct hire, and that's what I do, part of Elevate Talent Solutions. And I'm not lying when I say over the last year, I have filled 14 direct hire roles, salaries of 100,000 north. And I have spent under $500 in marketing or advertising for those roles.
It's because you know how to recruit.
It's outreach. It's building networks. It's relying on people. It's asking for referrals or introductions.
Absolutely.
And then it's not like bullshit reach out on, hey, I saw your profile. You'd be perfect for this role. I hate that.
It's funny. I joke with recruiters. I'm like, they'll be like, oh, I sent them a message on LinkedIn, but they have to return it. I'm like, okay, on LinkedIn, you know where they work, right? Okay, you can get the phone number to that employer and you can call them. Oh, I can call them at work? I'm like, yes, we can. And you should. That's what recruiters do.
Yeah. Yep.
Take it to that next. Don't just stop. Oh, I sent them a message and they didn't respond. You got to try other mediums. How are you going to get in touch with this person? You got to really want that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find the exact opposite. And I'll go back to, I was talking to a friend of mine last night about this that actually has a very high level coaching and resume service. And I was talking to him about something that had occurred and getting his opinion on it and his support. And we were talking about the reach out that's happening and not happening. And right to that point, I see it all the time from recruiters. Here's how you get a job. You got to reach out and network. Okay, when I'm personalizing a reach out to you and you don't publish anything but your email address, no phone number, no anything, no other way to get a hold of you, and you don't respond, please don't post out there again. You got to keep trying because I don't respond to one-timers. Like, this is not like an in-sync video, man, where we're like things on a marionette, like bye, 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 because that's what candidates are going to say to you when this market turns. Because those of us have been doing this long, we know what happens after downturns.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get back to them. You know people when you need them.
Absolutely. And during the downturn, you better be networking more than you do in a good economy for that reason. You're absolutely right. Because you need to have those relationships to leverage, and you need to be the person that says, people say, gee, even when they had nothing going on, they still kept in touch with me because they valued the relationship. And then eventually something will happen. If you're just an opportunist, like, again, most recruiters are, you're going to call them only if they can help you. And that's not what it's about. We had this interaction online recently with some posts on LinkedIn. Everything we do is about that. It's about what's for the candidate, what's for the client. We're just the conduit to make all that happen. But it's not about us. It's about helping other people get where they need to be. And then as a recruiter, you'll get what you need.
Yep, exactly. You're the last person in that equation. You got to be okay with that because the important people are the candidate and the customer. Can you make that match? Do they align other than what are your basic job duties? Understanding that, asking the right questions, controlling that relationship. But for me, it always goes back to what you created a boot camp for, and you can show the success. I've done something similar in my career with advanced recruitment training. The training and onboarding of these folks, they're not shown what the basics are, how to pipeline, how to outreach, how to build outside connections. It's throw them in with somebody that puts up good numbers, but probably isn't the best trainer and doesn't have the time, And then they get stuck in the worst 12 inches of staffing. And that's the space between the keyboard and the chair.
Remember that. I like that.
It's just,
But you're still right. And the most powerful thing you just said is there are top performers in every recruiting firm, but they're usually not the people you want training your new hires because they're not doing it the way that a new hire needs to do it in order to get where they are now. And that's, to your point, so stick and watch Mary over here. She billed $1 million last year. She'll show you how it's done. Mary's been doing this for 5-10 years, and Mary has ways and have a large network and can cut corners because she'd been doing it. A new person can't do that. So if you learn those habits first, you're missing, to your point, all the fundamentals that every successful recruiter has built their career on.
Yep. Yeah. And to that point, the answer has been more automation, more tools. We've been through how many iterations of this, from when we first went online to text us, to call them all, the mass emailers, automation with journeys and Sense, and now AI. The question really looms. And for me, at least, it's obvious. But I've been through all of this for so long, and new people maybe don't see it so obvious. But with the advent of AI, is it really doing what it should, or is it just accelerating bad habits and making them faster?
It depends on how the companies and the people that are implementing the AI choose to implement it. So if there's a structured plan, like with anything, then you can do it the right way. But if you're just throwing AI in there because you should, because that's what everybody's doing, then it's never going to benefit you. But to your point, Brian, there are a lot of areas of our business that AI can help and it will eliminate a lot of the non-recruiting tasks that recruiters are forced to do. And every recruiter hates the documentation, the note-taking, all of that stuff. There's a lot of AI automation that can be done with agents to help them with that. But what that should do is increase a recruiter's productivity when it comes to recruiting. And that's where companies that are implementing AI solutions to help recruiters be more efficient, those numbers, those productivity numbers on the desk should go up because technically they should be having more time to do their job and not being taxed with those administrative functions. So that's the next level. As companies begin to implement AI, are we measuring the right things and are we seeing growth in the right areas based on the investment we're making to help the recruiter be less tasked with administrative functions, et cetera, and allow more time to recruit? Recruiters have to realize, all right, you're investing in this technology to help me. I'm going to need to recruit more people. So those numbers should go on.
And you should see a better level of candidate through that, and ones that keep in contact. It's one of the first questions in any training I put together over the last 5 years that I always ask recruiters, whether they're tenured or not. What's your recruiting goal for the week? Every week, what's expected of you? I have to have 50 applicants, 25 hires, and 5 placements. And my follow-up question to that is, why? And I think the 5 years I've been asking that question, John, I think I can count on less than 3 fingers. Well, I feel like the Princess Bride here. I'm Inigo Montoya. Nobody can answer the question why, because it's just what they've always done. So those expectations don't change. So then they get caught in this murky quicksand that they've created of, it's a number-driven metric that they're after that hasn't fluctuated in years and doesn't match the business today. You've added automation, which has made it faster, but the mapping is wrong. The training is off on it. People really don't know how to use those tools. So it's just amplifying what they were doing before it. So there's more people coming in, more work that they don't know how to do. Everybody gets lost in this big black hole chasm. The ghosting is insane. The finger pointing starts and nothing moves forward.
So here's an example, spot on. One of the AI solutions that a lot of people are doing. So you're getting, imagine, and again, as recruiters back in the day, you would have loved this. You wake up and you come into work and you fire up your computer and you've got pre-qualified candidate leads waiting for you. Okay, wonderful. But then it's still, you need to be grounded in the fundamentals. You still have to talk to those people. You still have to network with those people and you have to find out who they know. It's not just about, oh, let me just verify, great. The AI agent says you have these skills. These skills, yes, great. I'm going to submit you a job. No, you still have to go through the motions of building that relationship, which AI cannot do and won't do, and that humans still crave. Again, it's the old expression, AI is not going to replace a recruiter. Those that use AI might, but are you still polishing your craft? You still got to build relationships with those people that AI brings to you, because that AI won't do that. And you got to your point, they might have the technical skills to do a job, but then you've got to figure out, is this the right opportunity? Because that goes beyond the technical skills. I always said, when you recruit someone, they're going to do what they do wherever they do it. The question remains that the recruiters have to figure out is, why would you leave one place and go to another place to do it? There's got to be a reason that motivates that person to make that move. And that's what has to be uncovered.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to the conference and some of the questions that were asked, and I'm still amazed at some of the answers, especially when the participants and everybody attending was asked, like, hey, where are you in your AI journey? And there were many that weren't the majority, but there were many that were either not utilizing AI as an organization yet or very novice. There were a lot of people that thought they were intermediary users, and I think was very eye-opening for them on the things that you and our other presenters shared. And then you had a couple of advanced users where, yeah, there are some people that are advanced, but for some recruiters out there that aren't in an environment where the affordability of some of the AI tools are there and they're still doing this old school, they have an opportunity here, I think, to take market share, because you have the time then to really, if you position it right and you build a pipeline, you can really out recruit some of these other people that are trying to figure the AI out any training or right training.
There are still people that will not show up through an AI agent search, whatever. It's a lot of AI agents are requalifying folks in a firm's ATS, which is great, because that's a laborious task that recruiters need to do, is to dive through a line of data, when in reality, you could probably fill your whole desk and live off of what's in your ATS if you play it right. So that's great. But then, to your point, I'm going to go out and find those people that it's not going to find. And that's where I add the real value. And guess what? Those people will know other people that AI will find. So you can still be very successful. Now, again, I'm all about adapting and changing with the times. The way that I'm going to trigger the same way, the way I train recruiters today is not the way I trained them 5 years ago, because we have to adapt to the market. If I was teaching them how I got taught, which was wonderful, they'd be laughing at me. Come on. Again, like, you get people that say, just pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone. You've got to master the electronic outreach, because most of your candidates are going to respond to that first. Then you're going to pick up the phone. There are different ways. I want to go back to something you mentioned about the metrics and KPIs. One thing that people have to understand is everybody measures KPIs. To your point, why are you measuring what you're measuring? But just as important, if not more important, are you tying it to the recruiter who's being measured and explaining why it's a benefit to them that you're measuring these numbers? So I would do the same thing you did with recruiters over here. I just mentioned this last week on a talk I gave. I'd sit down with recruiters that I was managing in January and say, or December, say, how much money do you want to make this year? Let's start there. And hopefully it's a realistic goal, and hopefully it rolls up into what my goal is to the company. Great. Guess what? We can track your metrics and tie it back to give you a roadmap to say, if you do this much activity, you'll position yourself to make the money that you want. And that's why I'm measuring these metrics. So all too often, to your point, we just measure metrics for the same network. How many calls do you make? How many connects did you get? How many send outs? Okay, great. Those are all great, but the recruiter has to understand why they're so important.
Yeah. Well, and they need to know not just why they're important, but I've always found too, they need to know what they're generating from it. Like, what's that end result? And this was a big transition for me when I left somewhere that I was for many years and went to a new organization that had a little bit different business model and different verticals that we were staffing, because it was a learning curve for me. And it was the first time in my career, the light bulb went off on breaking the numbers down to that level for them so they understood what each placement meant to the budget, and then financially for them, what that could equate to. And if they wanted to make extra money, their ability to connect with sales and open the door or direct place the candidate, what they could get on a split. And I had a young gentleman who is now with Michael Page heading up a vertical there. I'm very proud of him. But he was a very ambitious and very bright young gentleman at the time who really took to this and used to pick my brain constantly on it and taught his team. And I used to walk into that office here in New Jersey, John. I'd be like, how are things going? And his team could get up. They had a board in the back and they would say, this is our budget for the month, Ron. This is where we're at. This is what we need to do the next 2 weeks. So if we just make 11 more placements, I have a direct hire to close here, we'll be about 18% over your projection. And I was just like,
that's amazing. The communication, that's the exception, unfortunately.
yes,
Not the rule, but the communication explaining so they understand the business of things. Again, what it means to the company, what it means to them personally. That's huge. And you get so much more buy-in and participation as a team if you have that, because everybody understands what's going on.
Yep.
That's great to hear.
And as a leader, you're not micromanaging that stuff. Now you have time to focus on training. If you don't have a trainer or can't afford one, you can spend that time, or you can help up skills and continue building and supporting, because there's so much that goes on a recruiter's plate. It is not the easiest job in the world. It is one of the most difficult professions because you're never the important person in the equation.
And you're always juggling a lot. I would say, if you're an organized person, this business will make you disorganized. Not for everyone. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yep. You got to be a great juggler, but you got to be okay that, hey, you know that you're going to juggle 18 things and you are going to drop 2 of them. You just need to make sure the 2 you drop are not planet killers.
Right.
Don't drop the 2 that will destroy you. Keep those.
And some people come in, you said something earlier about being thick skin. You learn the longer you're in this business, the more that, as soon as you can learn not to take things personally, you get much better at this job, because okay, not every deal is going to close. Not every phone call will be a success. And that's okay. But you get a little bit better with each one, a little bit better each day. And you have enough in your pipeline so that understanding that when things do fall apart, because they will, you still have others that will close. Yeah. And again, that's a learned trait and a learned skill that recruiters have to stay in this business long enough to develop.
Yeah. Well, John, I have a great question to ask you, because you obviously are involved in a lot of organizations. You get to speak to a lot of groups. You get in front of a lot of people across multiple verticals within our staffing world. So what do you see out there that is and is not working for recruiters? And honestly, what should, in your opinion, in all your experience, what should leaders be doing to help develop those skills for their people?
Good question, Ron. The firms that I see that are having the most success have a commitment from the top to doing things a certain way, not rigidly, but there are fundamental practice processes and procedures that are consistent across the enterprise. So especially if you get firms that have like multiple locations, the more they're operating in the same mindset, the same processes, procedures, development, training, the easier it is for that organization to scale and to grow. If you've got 8 different locations running 8 different ways to run their business, you're disjointed. You might have success individually, but you can't have success collectively or grow beyond that. So the most successful organizations have down commitment to train, and train more than just, hey, sit and watch Mary over there do her job. They're investing in their people, and they're also holding them accountable. So if they set the stage and they set the expectations, again, it all comes back to communication. They set the expectations and they manage those expectations very rigidly in the first 3 to 6 months, so that if they have someone that's in trouble, they can make a quick decision whether or not they can help that person get over the hump, or whether this might not just be the origin. So it's those quick decisions and the communication and making sure everybody understands what's going on and why and what's expected. those tend to be the most successful. That's a long-winded answer.
No, and that's a great answer, man. And listen, we've all been there, and I know like sometimes when I've moved up the ladder in my career or moved into an organization, took over other areas of responsibility, it was always amazing to me how you could walk into 3 different offices under the same brand and they're doing things 3 different ways. And it's almost like you're walking into Fight Club when you do it because they're like, hey, we don't talk about Fight Club. Why are you asking that question, Ron?
But imagine if you're a leader over all those locations and you're going into different ones and you're like, all right, how are you leading? How are you managing? What are you managing to? Because everybody's doing it different. And you might say, but they're beating the numbers. Well, that's great. But it's hard for you to manage to that because they're doing it differently one office to the next. It's difficult.
Yeah. Yep. I used to see that too, like in volume recruiting, where organization I was with would always award, hey, I had 2 recruiters on my team that every week were just killing their numbers, 70 interviews. And they'd be like, why can't you all do that? Look at Ron's team doing that. And I'm sitting there back going, they're working their tails off, but those placements that they made equated to 2% gain because they're just flying by the seat of their pants. I walked into this situation of volume. They're not making great placements. Everybody's turning over. So great. They had 70 candidates this week. They hired 50 of them, placed 45, but we gained 3 headcount. What are we doing?
You're looking at the business from a different lens than they're seeing. And eventually that's going to catch up.
Yep. Absolutely.
No doubt.
I'll tell you who was successful this week. These guys over here that hired 10 people and grew their headcount by 18. That's your winner chicken dinner.
Absolutely. Hey, we're in the business of putting people to work, and net new starts is what grows your business. Net new starts and being able to, during the contract world, being able to redeploy or extend your existing while you're growing the net new. That's the game.
Yep. And if you're in that professional space or even on a company with just a TA team, on the professional space, it's not spending your revenue on expanding your network. It's how you develop that database and relationships that bring you candidates that are placeable or marketable to your customer base that you're not spending money to recruit on. Because I mean, that word of mouth travels fast. In an HRTA world, you can take those applications and like we do in the staffing realm, but it's more about building a pipeline. And I think I've always felt and I've always seen it should be easier in that captive environment because HR knows potential turnover. They know what the metrics are year over year. You have access to the position and the people that hire for them. So as a recruiter, you have time to build those relationships before you have an opening and set the parameters of those relationships and be in those conversations. So building a pipeline should be a whole lot easier.
Yeah, internally, the talent acquisition team that choose to operate that way, noticeably more successful than those that do not. 5% agree. Because internally, if you're in talent acquisition, your clients are your hiring managers. So just like you're a recruiter with a recruiting firm, you need to get to know them, get to know what they look for, what their unique hiring profile is, how you're going to work with them, set some ground rules and expectations so that when you do need somebody, you're ready to go to work. Then it's just inside for one company versus recruiting for one.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I probably talk all afternoon with you about this because we're so aligned in some of this. And
I love it.
Every time I've seen you speak and I've been there, I've learned something from you. So thank you. I really appreciate you joining us today. John House is just outstanding. And honestly, this is a conversation the industry needed and needs to hear. And for anyone out there listening, John is available for keynotes, training sessions, workshops. I cannot recommend him enough. Seeing him in person speaking, you need to contact John. And how do you do that? Well, you can find him on LinkedIn. Just search John Ruffini. We will drop in our episode description his actual LinkedIn link, or you can add him on Instagram at TikTok at Be a Better Recruiter, all one word, at Be a Better Recruiter on Instagram and TikTok. And John, I know you're going to offer something special, and this is only if you send in a question for John about the topic you talked today. So the best question that gets in, John, you're going to share a free copy of your book, Moneymakers.
Absolutely. They'll get a copy of Moneymakers. I'll even sign.
I love it. I love it.
Because that's worth so much.
Yeah. Listen, the knowledge in the book is worth it. I love it. And listeners, listen, drop a question in here for John. Anything about recruiting that we can share, we'll make sure it gets to him and then he can follow up, or we'll answer it on the live mailbag. If we get enough questions, we'll have John back on to answer them live. So John, thank you again for being on. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and everything you're doing for our industry. So thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Ron, it's always great to talk with you. I really enjoy it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then before we go, everybody, so just again, I want to thank you all for listening, as always, liking, following us, sharing our business in this podcast. Make sure that if you haven't, that you check out my new recruiter training hub that I launched a few months ago. That web address is www.recruitertraininghub.com, or you could look up our business and our support and training services at www.elevate-talent-solutions.com. All of our tools and resources and all the free stuff we actually want you to use are out there on that site. So make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss our next episode or our mailbag episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. They send all your questions via email to info@elevatetalentsolutions.net. Until next time, as Ron Burgundy says, keep it classy. San Diego.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. Do you have questions for Ron or today's guest about this episode? Reach out and your question might be featured on next week's mailbag. You can learn more about Ron and Elevate Talent Solutions at elevate-talent-solutions.com or on LinkedIn. This podcast was edited and produced in partnership with Adrian Ruthart, principal of boutique marketing firm ACR Ventures. Check her out at acrventures.com for all your small business marketing needs. Be sure to hit that follow button and send us love letters and episode ideas to Ron Miller at elevatetalentsolutions.net. Tune in next week, and thanks for listening.